Thank you.
How was everybody's breakout activity? Were you, yay? So were you able to complete craft the appreciative inquiry or at least get through some questions? Yes, yes. Okay, anybody want to provide a little feedback? Can you see how those questions that you come up with are used for that next phase of the discover? Anybody want to come off and talk, or any of the co-hosts?
Lisa, can you see my slides?
I can.
You can? Okay. So yeah, this would be a great time to put in the chat any comments about your sessions, or did you say we could unmute?
Yes, either. It's hard for me to look
Yeah,
at
so
these
this is Keith. So I guess I'll make some comments. So my mic was busted in my session, and Lisa was given some great examples in the healthcare, and I've had the same similar type of situations that I've dealt with, and just in the past, it was amazing to me when you got a large group and you got these different cells across your enterprise that if you can reach out and touch those different areas and you can get champions, and then you bring those people together along with other colleagues that are associated in the same sort of part of the business, and you can get them to dream together. It's just amazing to me when you put them together and their eyes open up when they realize that they all have the same shared dream and they really want to all go in the same direction. And it just creates so much synergy when that happens. And then all of a sudden, all the other D's just kind of kick in, right? So if you hit that dream and they all realize, yeah, that's really where I want to be at. It really is very powerful to me. So
this is why. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, this is why that define is very important, and you're going to notice that the majority of your time is really spent on that define. 80% of your time as a consultant is going to be there. And I don't know if any of you in your questions had mission creep, but once you get set on that topic, the affirmative, and then everything, you have your north arrow for your journey and your course. So it'll help if you have any people in your group that want to disrupt or go off, is to reorient back to that North Star. And hopefully some of you with your questions can recognize that this is going to elicit the stories, exactly what Keith mentioned. Once you start storytelling, that next phase is going to really in Discover generate a lot of information. And if you don't have your questions to be able to elicit the stories, you may miss out on some information. So very important step. So happy that you all got to experience that. So we're wrapping up a review here. As far as the basic principles for leading strategic conversations, remember this could be operational, functional, across all different elements of the organization. With a lot of different people as far as representing stakeholders. But when you focus on your values and your mission, this is really the way you engage people, is making sure you work from this alignment, but also making sure that your plan is co-created and implemented via teams. You need to make sure you engage the relevant stakeholders, and if you have any of them involved that are representing others, that they truly have that representation to be able to go back and connect with the group to have that buy-in. So I saw this in the earlier chat, having that purposeful topic selection is key, that everybody's in that conversation. And really continuing to use the generative questions and framing and coming up with a plan that has really measurable results, a plan on how you're going to establish the milestones, measure along the way, help them make sure that folks are moving in the right direction. And last is really having those champions that can sort of keep that accountability going, that are able to keep that forward momentum that comes from the summit to carry on, to follow up and make sure resources are in place to allow for things to move forward and communicate. So here we have a strategic conversation template for you, and it is in your workbook, page 39, but it's there to be able to brainstorm ideas for strategic conversations. When you think about where fostering strategic conversations is beneficial, whether it's individual level, that department level, team level, organization, but this will be a good tool, and we want you to recognize that if you are planning a 1 to 2 day event, that there's additional training. I'd say if you're working within the 30 people, 35 people, that's probably manageable with what you're getting from here. But having those facilitators who know what they're doing is huge when you embark on a big AI summit. And I see Jackie smiling, so she knows. So we have a nice little activity for you as you leave for today. We want you to design a strategic conversation. So use that template and choose one of your ideas for hosting a conversation. Create that positive frame, that affirmative topic for the conversation, and think of it in terms of present tense. Make sure that it's bold and inspiring, and choose that topic that supports your situation, whether it's going to be a simple strategic conversation, maybe a SOAR-based conversation, full SOAR, quick SOAR. And then from there, craft the 2 to 4 questions for your conversations. Questions to start and deepen a simple strategic conversation. You've got the 4 SOAR questions. You could come up with 3 to 4 AI questions, that high point story about your topic, conditions making your topic possible, and dream and imagine topics. And then lastly, identify who should be included in the conversation. And we want you to come prepared and share. And I know we're right at that point, but I just want you, I know some of you are from public entities, and I had a situation in my past where we regulated the maritime industry, and there was a lot of discussion when we had those folks that we regulated in any type of planning, and often folks thought that you were having the what is it, the coyote in the hen house. But by including them in there and having that focal point of best achievable protection, what we got out of an effort that we did was had industry be able to accept and take us to a higher level of protection we weren't even thinking about, but they were on board and they went to public hearings and were in support of everything. So maybe something to think about. I know we have some questions about stakeholders coming in, but sometimes you'd be surprised.
So Lisa, somebody has a question about how long should we be prepared to share for?
You know, just a quick, tomorrow, next session, we'll do a quick review like we've been doing, is just do a simple sharing session.
And you'll be in groups of 3.
Only 3.
So you'll have about 5 minutes to share
okay.
your plan, and then you'll get some feedback from the other 2 people's suggestions. It'll be like feed forward.
Yeah, we're going to set aside about 25 minutes. So if you're in teams of 3, you'll have 5 minutes to share, 3 minutes to get feedback. So you may not have one of us facilitators in all the sessions, but you get to really think through and share your designs next week. And we're really excited to hear about that.
Nice.
But just a quick note also, I've had numbers of people sometimes ask, what do you do in like 10 to 30 minutes? What would you do in 10 minutes? And we've had people design for stand-up meetings, a quick SOAR that they vary the question, but it's a quick, 30 seconds each person going around the circle with what is the best thing that happened to you this week, or share a success that everybody can celebrate with you. So they don't have to be really complicated. They can be very simple, but powerful.
And this is all about practice too.
Yes.
Great. So just to wrap it up, our last slide is just a little reflection. I don't know if anybody wants to share what could be creating anxiety, but what may excite them for that whole system conversation. I know last week we had a lot of discussion about that stakeholders or who to invite. And lastly, what are you noticing about the positive framing and generative questions when it comes to strategic conversations around strategy or strategic planning? Does anybody want to share?
Frederick here. Actually, I would like to share something. I guess that if you invite, it's again about stakeholders, external stakeholders like suppliers or customers, and they attend to one of these AI summit within the organization, and they see all this powerful energy released, that must be really a big source of motivation and inspiration for them. No, say, wow, that's an incredible company. I still want to work with these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really builds loyalty among customers and often vendors who really want to align with what are you doing and how are you doing it? Because we want that energy in our organization. Yeah, it's very powerful.
I think what's another thing that's really important here to remember is, especially when you bring together at an ecosystem level, many stakeholders, I think the number one mistake, or I don't want to call it a mistake, but actually it is a mistake that people make. There's two things. First is that they want to have all the answers up front. You can't. It's impossible when you are trying to co-create for you to think of every permutation and combination. So just, the takeaway for me, what I've learned over my years is just be transparent. Say when you don't have the answers and remind the group that we're here to actually work on this together, and it's up to us where this goes, and they'll always have involvement, and you'll always, be transparent. That's number one. And number two, I think it's really important to remember to have some sort of follow through, because there's nothing worse when you walk away and you're multiple different stakeholders and then you don't hear from anyone for like 3 months. Then you're like, okay, well, that was nice. They got us together, got all of our great ideas, but now looks like they're going to go back to that small group and work on it in that way. And no, if you don't have anything going on, doesn't matter. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And just when you think you've communicated enough, communicate. Believe it or not, that really creates that sense of connection and collaboration. So just thought I'd share that with you.
And I see that Sherry typed, I mean, this is really you going broad and coming it back. And I know Sherry talked about before, you're going to have a group of people who are either like being in that creative side of the brain or the others that are more logical. So there's something for everyone. So it's worth it up front, letting people know how it's going to play out, because you're going to get there, but that's exactly designed, right? You're asking the questions that are going to open up the possibility thinking, and then co-creating together to get more specific. Jackie, I see you nodding your head. You can chime in.
No, this is great. And just realize that, through these boot camps, you can bring, I trust you guys bringing 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 people, but you're going to start bringing like 50, 100 people, 200. Really make sure you have a co-facilitator who really understands the 5D cycle. It's a lot. And we've been doing this a long time to manage hundreds of people's energy. And Lisa and Sherry are right. You spend 80% of your time to define, and then you hit the switch to go, and that 20% is that other Ds.
Yeah, and I feel like the deployment or when you're actually going through that phase, be present in that moment. Your gut will tell you what's right and what's not. And if something doesn't feel right, it usually isn't the right way to go. So for me, it's always like I have to, I have things in my mind. It's like I need to do this and this and this, and you want to follow the process. But sometimes, there's an opportunity that just comes up and you don't even know. Ask those follow-up questions. And it's, that's where you plan really tight, but then you allow yourself that flexibility and a little bit of adaptability and ensuring you've got all the voices heard. And, don't be so focused on getting everything done, because I think it's more important that everybody has a voice, they feel included. And then, even if you don't get everything done, I think that the nice thing is that everybody will be on that journey together. Whereas otherwise you'll have some people way ahead of the game, some people sort of in the middle, and some people at the back, and it, you know, doesn't have the same impact.
I like what Sherry wrote in the text box, plan tight, hang loose. And remember, this is a cycle for a reason, folks, right? You can, doesn't mean you have to nail it the first time. You can go around.
Yeah. So can I comment on that one? So I've been doing this for 2 years now, and when we first started it, we looked at it as creating a framework, and we really wanted to create a strong foundation, and really look at the environment and get people dreaming. And then we were just going out for like baby steps, right? And I look at it like building a house, right? So you frame out the house, you build a strong foundation, and maybe that's how far you get this year. And then next year you add on, you add on the bedrooms, and you upgrade the kitchen, and and pretty soon you got a pool out back, and who knows? But we keep building the framework, and we're documenting that, and we're adding it on, and we're making it visible, right? And we're all building that together. So that's what I keep talking about as we keep building this together, and we're trying to do it every year, and just keep going at it.
Yeah, I love that, Keith. And to me, in my mind, like when I'm running sessions, it's always like 1, 2, 3. Number 1, let's go big picture, identify a bunch of things. Then number 2, let's prioritize. And number 3, are we all holding hands on that? So until everybody's holding hands, you don't move to the next session or the next section or the next question, because you want to understand if there's dissenters, cynics, skeptics, or just people who are not quite sure where you are. You want to get that out in the open before you start moving sort of 3/4 of the way through, and then realize some people were never on that journey with you. So, doing those little things, it might sound, especially at the beginning, it feels like, gosh, we just have 10 things we want to prioritize already. Yes. And then, just ask the question. So is everybody holding hands on this? So now when we're moving ahead, we're moving from here forward. And then again, prioritize, align, and then you move forward. Otherwise, I feel like sometimes what happened is I think I'm going there, but it's actually not in essence what's happening. And then again, your impact will not be the same as if you had that alignment all the way through.
Yeah, so if I can hog the mic one more time. So I also have this greenhouse analogy, right? So you got this greenhouse, and all the windows are just blackened because they're so dirty, and what grows in the greenhouse is just you get some weeds. So if you go into the greenhouse and you just focus on the weeds and you start picking the weeds, the only thing that's going to grow again is weeds, right? So you really got to look at, how do you get the windows cleaned to start bringing some light in? And then once you get the light in, how do you start getting the seeds into the ground so that you get stuff growing? And then once stuff starts growing, it starts seeding, and other people start, start growing stuff, and they start planting and seeding. And so that's what we're going after is, it's almost like a controlled anarchy, right? So you lay out a framework, and then you fill people up with positive vibes, and make them feel empowered, and let them go out and start gardening the organization and start growing positive stuff. So yeah, so I'll be quiet now for a minute. Thank you.
No, that's great ending point and great way to end this conversation. So as Jackie said in the chat, we're officially at the end. If anybody wants to stay on and have questions, or want to offer any additional information, please feel free to. We'll hang out for a few minutes.